Hi, I'm Mary Alice Haney, and this is SHEMD. My guest today is expert nutritionist, Dr. Elyse Resch. She's the co-author of Intuitive Eating, now in its 4th edition. And today we're going to talk about distorted eating, diet culture, and fixing our relationship with food. Stay tuned. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician's medical advice. You should regularly consult your medical provider in matters relating to your own health. Even though we share our honest beliefs on SHEMD, some of the products and services we discuss may involve sponsorships or paid advertising. On today's episode, we are so lucky to have Elyse Resch. Elyse is a nutrition therapist, registered dietitian, certified eating disorder specialist. She at one point was my nutritionist and really helped me fix my relationship with food. And I'm so happy you're here that we can give your amazing knowledge to the masses.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This is wonderful. And knowing you for so long, I love it.
And we're going to talk about, how we met. I wanted to also say that you're co-author of Intuitive Eating,
Yes.
which now is in its 4th edition. The Intuitive Eating Workbook, the Intuitive Eating Card Deck. She's the author of the Intuitive Eating Workbook for Teens and the Intuitive Eating Journal.
Right.
So I'm going to tell us a little bit about how we met, and then I want you to kind of dig deep into what intuitive eating is. So I was in graduate school, in film school, and I had been out in LA, I think a year. I was 21 years old. And I had just been suffering with the diet culture my entire life. Grew up in the South. I mean, I don't think it really matters where you grow up, but I had been someone that exercised a lot, and that then I would eat a lot, and then I would diet a lot. And it was this vicious cycle of exercising, not eating too much. Sometimes it would be 2 hours a day of exercising. Sometimes it would be not eating for a day and then sitting down and having 5, bags of potato chips. It was just food wasn't food anymore for me. It was a way for me to sort of, numb myself and make myself feel better. I had just moved to Los Angeles. I didn't know anybody when I moved here. I was in graduate school. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm spending more time in my day thinking about, oh my God, how much did I exercise today? And how much did I eat today? And oh no, I ate those potato chips, and I need to go back to the gym. And I never suffered from anorexia or bulimia. It was called, we put a name on it. I think it was emotional eating,
Disordered eating.
Disordered eating. So I had at 21 years old said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It's overcoming my life. And I picked up the Yellow Pages, and nobody really knows what the Yellow Pages are anymore. And literally looked up nutritionist. Mm-hmm. And you were in there somehow, God, divine power, of all the people in the Yellow Pages, I picked you and, went to you. And our first meeting, I'll never forget this because it was a pivotal moment in my life. You literally said to me, we had a conversation about food, and you were like, okay, so tell me about, what is it that tell me about your food. Right. And I said, well, this is my problem. At night, all I want to do is all I can think about is chocolate chip ice cream. And you said, well, okay, for the next 3 weeks, all you're going to eat every single night is chocolate chip ice cream. Uh-huh. And that started it. And then it was just about making food not this big thing that was so powerful. It was about, me getting the power back and my relationship with it. And then it became about, okay, I'm lonely. What are the reasons that I'm doing these things? Mm-hmm. I'm lonely. I haven't met friends yet. Mm-hmm. I've broken up, and we were together for years and years and years. And we went through every heartache, every breakup. And it was so different once I got my relationship with food back on track. Right. And I lost weight. That was the craziest thing. I mean, I came to you, and I don't even remember what the number was, but by eating exactly what I wanted and taking the emotion out of food and having food really just be food and having it be, if I wanted French fries, I would be able to eat French fries. French fries were not a terrible thing. It just wouldn't be, I wouldn't eat the whole thing of French fries. It became a way for me to make, and you would say to me, I remember the movie theater, you would say, okay, I said, I love movie popcorn. And you would say to me, I eat movie popcorn all the time. Just don't go have a full big dinner with a plate of bread and, 5 steaks and then, go eat your movie popcorn. Make good choices. It's not easy to talk about cancer, yet knowing your family's history of cancer is a first step to understanding your own risk and may qualify you for genetic testing that can help inform your way forward. The MyRisk Hereditary Cancer Test with Risk Score from Myriad Genetics is a powerful tool to help healthcare providers identify your risk of developing 11 different types of hereditary cancer. And Risk Score analyzes multiple factors to estimate your risk of developing breast cancer over the next 5 years and remaining lifetime. Breast cancers can be missed on annual mammograms, especially in women with dense breast tissue. And some patients may benefit from more advanced screenings like an MRI. MyRisk with Risk Score can inform decisions about additional screening methods, which may find cancer at its earliest, most treatable stage, or even prevent it. Knowing your cancer risk can be just the beginning of more personalized care. Learn more about MyRisk with Risk Score at getmyrisk.com. That's GETMYRISK.com. So can you talk a little bit about intuitive eating and,
Sure.
and what it is, and then how your journey is, to get to where you are?
So the most important thing you just said was that you took the power back. And intuitive eating is all about autonomy. It's based on the belief that we're all born with all the knowledge we need to have in order to eat. Any baby cries when they're hungry. And when they've had enough food, they turn their little heads. When they start getting solid foods, they know what they like. They throw the other food on the floor. And the problem is we get so disconnected from that internal wisdom because of diet culture. I want to take a sidebar for a moment. What's in the middle of diet culture? Cult. And a cult is something that you're asked to follow the beliefs without questioning them. Now, I'm not saying it was created that way. It's just something I figured out recently. But intuitive eating helps you really challenge all of these rules that diet culture gives you. And diet culture is really out there to get you to be as thin as you can be. That's the world we live in, which is so unfortunate. So intuitive eating is a self-care process. It's self-compassionate. It's guided by 10 different principles. They're not rules. They're just ways of helping you get reconnected with your, with your wants, with your desires, with your emotions, with your satisfaction. But I have a very favorite definition of intuitive eating because I think it helps explain it to people even better than what I've just said. So there's 3 parts of our brain that are always in action around eating. One of them is the instinctual part of the brain. That's what the dinosaurs had. That was the only function their brain had. It's like survival. So
And babies have it.
Oh, sure.
That's
Babies
what
have
you're
that
saying.
too.
We're born with it.
We're born with it. It's instinctual and it's for survival. It's what sends us out to eat so that we don't die. We also have the emotional brain, the limbic brain, and that it's the seat of emotions and social behaviors, and that can impact our hunger, our fullness, our feelings, all of that. That's the emotional part. Then we have the neocortex, which is the thinking, rational part of our brain. So intuitive eating is a dynamic interplay of instinct, emotion, and thought. I like to look at it as a triangle. So it's sometimes our instincts are off. I had clients in the beginning of the pandemic who were sick and they had no taste or smell, yet they had to eat. So they had to use the thinking part of their brain to say, eat anyway, even if you have, you're not getting the satisfaction and necessarily the hunger and fullness signals. So intuitive eating leads to freedom. It leads to a sense of trust in that internal wisdom, gets you reconnected. And what you were saying, Mary Alice, about, you were a prisoner of
No, it felt like that.
Yeah.
It literally felt like it was controlling my life. Like I was thinking about, my exercise, the food I was eating, rather than thinking about why I was lonely, why, the reasons that, all of that.
Yeah. And in your pursuit of good food, bad food, trying to eat the foods that you thought were, deemed healthy or okay, and feeling bad about the foods that you thought you shouldn't eat, what that did is it drove you to more of the food that you didn't think you should have. because we are so driven by our unmet needs. That's what Abraham Maslow, one of the psychologists, said. Meaning, if we don't have something, that's what we want. So when you tell yourself you shouldn't have certain foods, that's all you can think about. Talking about your ice cream, it's like, I should not have that chocolate chip ice cream. And that's all you want is the chocolate chip ice cream. So there was psychology behind my recommendation to you to eat it every single night, because you get to a place that's called habituation. And habituation means the greater the stimulus, the less the effect. So the more you have of something, it just takes its right place. You're not scared that you won't ever have it again.
I had it last night, by the way.
Great.
But a little bowl, and it was perfect, and it was satisfying.
You could have had more if you wanted to. It's interesting. This is a sidebar. I went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago of a family friend who died at 100. And what was said when his granddaughters came up to speak about him and others, he loved food so much, and he loved his desserts. So he would eat lunch, he'd eat half a sandwich and say, okay, I'm done with that. What's for dessert? And this man had 2 desserts a day, and chocolate bars were his key to happiness. And, people are so worried about health. And, gosh, you can just trust that you're going to have a balance when you allow yourself to have whatever you want to eat. I like to talk about foods as being emotionally equivalent. Now, I do have a Master of Science degree in nutrition. I am aware that certain foods have more nutrient density than others. However, I really believe that we need to strive to feel the same about ourselves based on what we eat. In other words, not good about yourself because you ate broccoli, and bad about yourself because you ate green jelly beans. Right. You basically...
The emotion attached to it.
So you were talking before, Mary Alice, about not being able to get in touch with your emotions. It's hard to get in touch with them while you're feeling deprived. Even if you're eating a lot of something, you're still feeling that sense of, I shouldn't, and I'm going to be deprived if I don't have it. So your focus gets on what you can't have, whether you're being good or bad, in quotes. Once you get through 2 things, feeding yourself enough throughout the day. Now, you said sometimes maybe you didn't eat enough during the day.
Yeah, I would be like, oh no, yesterday I ate, an entire pizza. So today I'm not going to eat anything, and I'm going to exercise 2 hours a day.
So in that day that you eat nothing, what does that instinctual part of the brain register? Red light, organism in danger, which will send you out to eat as much as you can when you finally do get food. Right. There's a chemical that the brain releases. It's called neuropeptide Y, and it sends you out to get as many calories and as many carbs as you can get. So first you have to eat. You have to eat throughout the day. And then you have to look at your thoughts about food and let go of the good and bad foods, the healthy and unhealthy foods.
But that's so hard in today's, you have the Atkins diet, you have intermittent fasting, you have, you should be a vegan, you should do the Mediterranean diet, you should, now you said something, you do know that certain foods are broccoli is healthier than a French fry. Like that is.
Well, it maybe gives you more nutrient.
Right.
Nutrient density. French fries give you energy.
Right.
I eat anything. I eat everything I want to eat. I also trust, not only for myself, but for my clients, that once you have that full freedom, you get a really nice balance. You get plenty of the foods that support your immune system, support your bone density, support your brain function. And you also have those, what I call play food. The ones that maybe don't have as much nutrient density. Maybe potato chips don't have as much nutrient density as a baked potato. But still, you get to have it all, and nothing is forbidden. So yes, it's very, very difficult in a world where every other day, I've been around long enough, by the way, every other year, every other decade, there's another,
fad
diet. Diets absolutely do not work. And there are, I don't know if you want me to talk about.
Yeah, so why do diets not work?
First, you start from a physiological, neurochemical standpoint. If you're on a diet, you're getting less food than your body actually needs. So that survival part of your brain is registering that you're deprived, that your body and your brain are deprived. And it will set you up to ultimately get more food in to make up for it. So that's the physiology of it. And from a deprivation standpoint, any diet you go on, there's going to be certain foods you're told not to eat, or if you're going to eat them, you should only eat a little bit of them, have your 3 French fries rather than enjoy them. So what ends up happening then is while you're on that diet, that restrictive plan, you're building up this deprivation. It builds up, and it's a certain point you can't take the deprivation anymore. But here's the biggest piece of it, and I mentioned earlier about autonomy. So if any of you have children, you know that when they are toddlers, 18 months to 3 years, what's their favorite word? No. This is a healthy little kid. Because at that point in life, that developmental task is to assert their autonomy, to become their own people. An infant is completely dependent on the caregiver. But once a child can run around, walk out of the room, come back in, it starts to develop a sense of being separate and wanting to be their own person. And if you have teens, this comes back in
on back.
Teen years. A healthy teen is going to rebel.
Yeah.
So bring it back to diets. You go on a diet. Somebody else wrote that diet. Even if you think you're putting it together, well, you're putting it together based on what you've heard out there in diet culture. And there comes a point where you go, and I won't use swear words on this, but where you just go, forget that. And
we get it.
You get it. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
The problem is then people feel bad about themselves. They think they're failures. I have clients come into my office and say, oh my God, I've failed at so many diets. And I'll say, no, you're not a failure. You're a success at ego development because you have a strong sense of self. And you get to a point where it's like, no. So with intuitive eating, you learn to trust that you'll be just fine if you just listen to your body. The other piece of intuitive eating that's so important, you mentioned health, Mary Alice, is stress. Everybody on these diets, they're stressed all the time. Mm-hmm. They're worried. Am I going to stay on it? At first they're excited. I'm staying on it. And then
what am I going to eat when I go out to dinner?
Exactly.
What happens when I go to this party?
Exactly. So there's a lot of stress involved in dieting. Well, guess what? The worst thing for your health is stress.
Right.
Everybody seems to know that now. There's books written on it. And so the more you're stressed, the higher your cortisol levels are. And that's really unhealthy for you. That raises your chance and risk of heart disease and diabetes is stress. The other thing that is really unhealthy for a person is what's called weight cycling. It used to be called yo-yo dieting in the old days. Mm-hmm. Now it's weight cycling. So you go on a diet, you lose weight. Even if it's a small amount of weight, you get off the diet, you gain it back and more. Because, by the way, that instinctual part of your brain is slowing your metabolism when you're on the diet, when you're restricting the amount of food that your body needs. So you get off the diet, you've had it, you've been deprived, you start eating a lot more of the things things that you didn't get to have that you wanted to have. On a slowed metabolism, you gain the weight back and even more. And then you go on the next diet and it's up and down and up and down. And that weight cycling is shown to be very dangerous for health. Again, pro-inflammatory, increasing risk of heart disease and diabetes and other medical conditions.
Bon Charge is a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of evidence-based products to optimize your life in every way. Founded on science and inspired by nature, all Bon Charge's products adopt ancestral ways of living in our modern-day world. Their extensive range of premium wellness products helps you sleep better, perform better, have more energy, recover faster, balance hormones, and reduce inflammation. The list is endless. From blue light glasses to red light therapy to EMF management and circadian-friendly lighting, Bon Charge's products help you naturally address the issues of our modern-day way of life. I started off my career as a West Coast editor of Allure magazine and got to try so many products, peels, and lasers. I thought the deeper the laser, the more active the ingredient, the better. However, as I've gotten older, I noticed that I need to find more gentle solutions. I found Bon Charge and love their red light therapy. One of my best friends told me about it, and I always listen to everything she says. I use it 10 to 20 minutes each day, and I'm really noticing a difference. I can switch between both NIR and red light in one device. Bon Charge's products are HSA, FSA eligible, and customers can receive an additional 40% off if they use their flexible spending account. Go to boncharge.com and use coupon code SHEMD to save 15%. That's BONCHARGE.com and use coupon code SHEMD to save 15%. I recently overhauled my kitchen and really wanted to swap out toxic kitchenware and appliances. I still wanted beautiful cookware and was so excited to find Our Place's non-toxic, healthy, sustainable choices. Did you know that most cookware and appliances are made with forever chemicals? Most cookware brands continue to use chemicals due to their low costs. Leading the change, Our Place has always been FIFA-free and offers the most durable, toxin-free ceramic coating, ensuring a healthy, safe cooking experience. In addition to cookware, FIFAs are also frequently used in appliances, especially air fryers, pressure cookers, crock pots, and even the rim of blenders. That's why Our Place came out with non-toxic appliances that are changing the game. And did we mention they're beautifully designed in beautiful colors that feel like art objects and elevate your home to make you feel creative in the kitchen? Upgrade to Our Place today and say goodbye to forever chemicals in your kitchen. Our Place's Wonder Oven is the market's most stylish air fryer and toaster oven, all in one, boasting double the capacity of traditional air fryers and, importantly, free from forever chemicals found in many air fryers. Go to FromOurPlace.com and enter my code SHEMD at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide. That's FromOurPlace.com, code SHEMD. Our Place offers a 10-day trial with free shipping and returns. Well, you brought up a minute ago kids and children, and I know you've written a book especially for this.
Yeah.
Even I, who spent years and years and years with, having you on my team and helping me, get through lots of things, even I find myself with my children, if they're, I have 2 boys and then I have 3 stepchildren who are also, my children. But right now, what I'm saying is like with my 2 that are living with us right now, I see them go to In-N-Out. All they want to do is go eat at In-N-Out. Then they want to order chicken fingers. Then they want to order, it's just, they're teenagers and they're just not thinking health-wise. They're starting to a little bit. And I find myself saying, okay, if you're going to eat that, and then the pandemic also, there wasn't, we tried to have a lot of sports and activities and, children go through hormones and, if you're not exercising and you're not doing anything and you're eating, if you're putting crap into your body all the time, I know you don't want me to say that. I know.
Yeah.
But I know as a parent, I find myself, how do you tell mothers, how should we be talking to our children that are eating? And again, I'm just talking about teenagers. When they're little, we control what they eat. We say, here's your vegetables, here's your fruit, here's, if you want to, we give them dessert. But by the time they become teenagers, they have their own cars. They're eating what they want at school. And the school lunches are, excuse my language, but they're crap. It doesn't matter where they go to school. And they're in this kind of vicious cycle. So what do you tell me what to do?
Yes, I'm going to tell you. Well, you're a little beyond this. It starts when they're very little, where you don't control what they're eating. Your job as a parent is to present a wide variety of foods, to sit down at a table as often as you can with the family, eating together, put the baby in the high chair, and eat a variety of foods yourself. So then that child wants to mimic you, rather than you've got to eat those vegetables before you get your ice cream, because what does that mean? Well, ice cream is the golden, ring, and the vegetables, got to get through them. So you're already establishing, and I know you're beyond this, but you're already establishing a sense of good food, bad food. So instead, you put it all out there. I even advise parents to put on the table with all the, the other foods, put some cookies on the table.
But they're always going to go for the cookies.
Yeah, they're going to go for the cookies for 2 weeks, and after that, the cookies are there, and sometimes they forget it. I have the wonderful privilege of having helped people like you and so many others reconnect with their internal wisdom, raise their kids as intuitive eaters because they've become intuitive eaters. Absolutely everyone that I'm still in touch with, their kids have no eating issues. They have no eating disorders. They have a really good sense of what they need to feel energy and to focus in school, and they haven't been controlled. It doesn't mean you neglect your children. It doesn't mean you just walk out of the house and tell them to get something out of the pantry. No, of course, you're the parent. So your job as the parent is to supply the food. The child's job is to eat as much or as little as they want. But I want to give you a little bit of information that can change everybody's mind about these things. There's something called the social determinants of health. Now, we're all walking around here saying, oh, to be healthy, you have to eat right and exercise right, move your body right. And that's what's going to determine your health. Guess what? What you eat and how you exercise is only 10% of what determines your health. 10%. The other 90% includes, there's certain things like your genetics, things like substance abuse. Are you abusing certain substances? And the rest of it is, how much stress are you under in this world? Do you have access to medical care? Do you have access to mental health care? Do you have a safe living place? Do you have enough food, access to enough food? And socialization, education, all the social components, those are what determine our health more than what you eat and how much you exercise. Now, I'm not saying that food doesn't have an impact. Of course it does. First of all, we have to have enough food. And secondly, a wide variety of foods. And movement, sure, we all need to move our bodies. I'm very grateful that I have been moving my body my entire adult life, which leads me at my advanced age to have a lot of energy and a lot
Am I allowed to say how old you are?
Yeah, go ahead.
She's almost 80 years old.
Well, I'm almost 79. Give me one more year. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. So those things.
You've been, taking care of yourself and eating.
Well, I've been eating intuitively. Okay, so I had an eating disorder well before I met you. I came out of college and became an elementary school teacher. I don't know if you know that, Mary Alice.
I actually don't.
I taught elementary school for several years, and then I was done with it. I had my own child, and I wanted to put my child energy into, raising him rather than these lovely other kids, but I decided I'm not doing that anymore. And I ended up going to graduate school. I started at 30. Went to graduate school to get my Master of Science degree. And right around that time, before I started graduate school, I was, bitten by the diet, by diet culture. I wasn't in high school. I actually had no dieting thoughts then. I didn't live in a home where anybody talked about good food or bad food. And college, I had an experience. My very first day, I went to UCLA, and the very first day I was in the dorm, went down to the cafeteria to pack my lunch, and I'm packing this great big roll with lots of tuna on it, and this girl behind me goes, "Oh my God." And I was like, "What? What's the matter? Is there a fly on it?" She said, "No, that's so fattening." And that was the first time. I was 17 years old. I was a freshman in college. It was the first time I ever heard that there was a connection between body and what you ate. I then went on to have a bit of orthorexia. Have you heard that term? Orthorexia is an eating disorder that is not in the DSM-5, which is the psychiatric manual, but it is considered to be an eating disorder. It's where people pursue healthy food for the purpose of controlling their health.
I have heard of this.
So they get
really prevalent right now.
Yeah, obsessed with it. They'll only buy their food at certain health food stores, and they won't eat certain things in restaurants or at friends' houses. The goal is not weight loss with it. However, as they start restricting more and more food, they don't get enough food in, and it can end up being very serious and dangerous. So I went through a period of orthorexia because the family I married into then was very orthorexic. But the dieting started after that. And
after you'd had your child?
After I'd had my child, when I wanted to have another one. And I dieted because I thought, well, I should lose some weight before I get pregnant again. I never got pregnant again because I wasn't eating enough. I was losing weight. That's when I started dieting and started binging. So I went from restriction to binge, feeling terrible about myself when I felt I had no control over myself. This is, I will say, from a spiritual standpoint, it led me into this field. It led me into
it's
wanting.
Your why.
Yeah, exactly. And going to graduate school really helped because of all the science that I learned. I started therapy at 35. That was really helpful. Therapy, everybody should go to therapy. It's a great thing. And by the time I started my practice, I will say I was healed from my eating disorder. Not that I went to see anybody for it, because nobody knew anything about that then. And from that point on, I just wanted to help people live their lives the way I was living my life. So for the last 40 years, I haven't had an issue with food, eating, body, with all the changes that happen. I mean, bodies change throughout a lifetime.
Menopause,
post-menopause, being hot all the time still, many, many years post-menopausal. So, I just love what I do because I love helping people heal. So back to health. So if you can understand, in raising kids, if you can understand that you don't have to worry about it. I'll have parents call me and say, oh, all my child is eating is white buttered noodles, and doesn't eat a vegetable or fruit. And I'll say, well, what's a pediatrician saying? Oh, he's fine. He's growing great. He's totally healthy, hardly ever gets sick. Don't worry about him. The more you push a child to eat certain foods, the more they're going to reject it because of that healthy ego inside that don't tell me what to do. So
what if we've done it? What if we've, made the ice cream the most important thing? And what if we're now I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
If we have these teenagers and we're like, you just shouldn't be ordering In and Out every day. Like, you just shouldn't, like, your choices. Like, I did try to say, hey, let's feed your body. You're an athlete. Like, let's pick foods that actually offer nutrition and that feed your body.
It's like, leave me alone, Mom.
Okay.
Leave me alone. So what you do is you sit down with your teenager, if it's a teenager at this point, and you say, I really screwed up. I have to tell you, I read this book and I realized that what I'm doing is not trusting that you have internal wisdom about eating, that you know when you're hungry, that you know when you're full, you know what satisfies you, your taste buds, your body. And so at this point, my job is going to be to just make sure there's plenty of the foods that you like in the house, so you can always have something you like. Eat whatever you want when you're out. No worries. I'm not worried about you. You've become a teenager. You're healthy. You're moving through life. Not worried about you. And I'll tell you, kids love it when you tell them you've made a mistake.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
They just love it. In fact, Daniel Siegel, who's a great psychologist, has said, to be a good parent, you have to do everything right a third of the time, wrong a third of the time, but apologize, and then just wrong a third of the time, and then you're a good parent.
I love that.
So that's what you do. But here's another important thing that I want to make sure I say, Mary Alice. Look at your own relationship with food in your body. This is probably the most important feature in terms of raising your child to be able to trust their body and appreciate their bodies. If you're talking all the time about, I ate that and that was so bad, I've got to be good tomorrow. Or, oh, I can't stand my belly. I didn't used to have a belly when I was young. Or any kind of negative things, that child picks it up. And it girl, boy, trans, doesn't matter what gender. Kids pick this up and they start disliking their own bodies.
They mirror you. So if they see you hating yourself, then they start to think that. I have two. So there's 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls, and I think this is kind of incredible. I'm just saying how hard it is because I have had years with you, and yet I'm still making mistakes on it because the culture is it comes back. Like, you need to look like this. You need to, with Instagram and social media, and it's just it's this constant pressure to be a certain
you're
way.
Worried about not being a good enough parent. You see, that's why I was saying this good enough parent is you can make mistakes, but trust your child. Let them know that you trust them. Let them know that you love and adore them. It doesn't matter what size or shape that they are. And stop talking negatively about yourself.
So at the same time, there's an obesity problem in America. Okay. So how would you say that? But there is. And I want to know what your take is on Ozempic and Mounjaro and Wegovy. I want to know what you think about all this because it is. I actually love it because I think for so long, people with obesity have been, the message to them has been, there's something wrong with you. Just exercise and stop eating. Right. And a lot of them are insulin resistant. There's a reason behind it. And these medicines, if used correctly, treat a disease.
You want my opinion.
That's why you're here. I want to know exactly what you think.
Okay. So, first of all, there's a misconception that there's causation between weight and health. This is a misconception. There's correlation often. Okay. What's the difference? 2 things happening at the same time, they're correlated. I walk out my front door and this man walks down the street with a yellow hat on. Every time I walk out my front door. Am I causing him to wear that yellow hat? No, but they happen to be correlated. And are there some health conditions that do occur in people in larger bodies? Yes, but is it because they're in larger bodies, or is it because what they've gone through, trying to lose weight, weight cycling, which I was talking about, all these health conditions that are a result of that? Is it about the stigma that they live with, the stress, worried that somebody's going to judge them because of the size of their body, worried about going to the doctor because now the whole medical complex is telling you to go on these drugs. And
But they work.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So they don't go to the doctor because they don't want to be told lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever when they've tried that all their lives and diets don't work. Mm-hmm. So they don't go. They miss a diagnosis in an early stage of some disease, and that can lead to some dire consequences. They're worried about walking down the street because somebody's yelling out of a car, "Hey, get off the street, fatty." There's so much pressure on people in larger bodies to change their bodies when, in fact, we can't fool Mother Nature. If one is DNA programmed to be in a larger body, they've been in that body their whole lives. It's not because they've been having disordered eating. This is their body. So they walk around thinking, I'm bad, I'm wrong, there's something wrong with me. When in fact they have, some people have wonderful medical profiles. I was listening to a panel that Oprah was on with a group of doctors talking about these semaglutide medications, the Ozempic and the Wegovy and all the others. And this doctor was talking about how wonderful they are. And somebody in the audience said, "Do you set a weight for each person?" And she said, "Oh, no. I never tell a person what they should weigh. In fact, I have a patient who's 300 pounds, but all of her metabolic, markers are perfect. So she's, she doesn't have what she called the obesity disease." In any case, it's language. So, okay, so let me go. I look through a social justice lens. I'm going to throw another whole whammy into this. I believe that all people, regardless of their marginalized identity, meaning living on the margins, being different than others, all deserve dignity, respect.
Yeah.
And people in larger bodies are not getting that. We're all very woke to many things, but people still make comments about people in larger bodies and that they really should get smaller. Well, what if somebody's perfectly fine in their body? What if they haven't been feeling bad about themselves? Now they're starting to feel bad because people are saying, well, you really should go on this drug so you could get smaller. Doesn't that perpetuate the belief that there's something wrong with them because they're different? We're fine. We're trying to be accepting of people who are neurodiverse. We're trying to be accepting of people of all different, as I say, marginalized identities. But if you're bigger, you're not okay. And I mean, we live here in California, in LA, and there's a huge, emphasis on the thinner you are, the better you are. But that's not necessarily true. Now, the drug. What it's creating is malnutrition. So the drug itself, what it does, any of these drugs, what it does is it mimics fullness. It puts in, we have a chemical called leptin that makes us feel full. So it increases the levels of that. So people are feeling full all the time. And I'm going to put aside right now side effects. I'm just going to talk about people feeling super full. They're not eating enough food. And they're ending up with true malnourishment. And this is serious. I mean, you cannot support your body functioning if you're not getting enough nourishment. So that's one piece of it. Let me back up for a second. There have not been any lengthy studies on people who don't have diabetes. By the way, these drugs are great for people with diabetes. Yeah. Thank goodness it helps them control their blood sugar. They're at a very small dose of it. The dose that's being given to people to lose weight is a larger dose. And for many people, not all, but for many, they have pretty horrendous side effects. GI issues, bloating, diarrhea, gas, horrible things in their GI tract. And they feel awful, but they're willing to do it because all they want to do is lose weight to be acceptable. Now, let me say, I have total compassion for people who want to be acceptable. I've always had thin privilege. Thin privilege being I don't have to worry about somebody screaming at me as I walk down the street or getting on an airplane and not being able to put the seatbelt over me or having a doctor yell at me. Although one time my doctor did say something to me. I've had the same doctor for over 40 years. He said, you've gained a little weight. And I said, shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
Do not speak about it. And I never get weighed. I haven't been weighed. I don't get on a scale ever.
You used to be so mad because I'd want to be weighed. Yeah, and you were like, do not get on that scale.
No, absolutely not. So in any case, here are people going on these drugs. thinking that they're miracles, that they're going to keep them thin. Well, guess what? They have to be on them for the rest of their lives, because the moment they get off of them, everything reverses. And that instinctual part of the brain that tries to keep you at your DNA programmed weight will send the message to gain weight. It slows your metabolism while you're on them. So if somebody wants to spend $1,000 a month and stay on a drug for the rest of their lives without knowing what the ultimate problem could be. We've seen some stomach paralysis. We've seen pancreatitis. There's an possible increased risk of thyroid cancer. It's not just such a, benign thing.
Right.
And the worst of it to me is we're continuing to oppress people in larger bodies. I know you didn't expect me to go to that.
No, you're an expert. We have expert people on this podcast so that we can educate all women to be their own health advocate. So I want to know your expert opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I say I have compassion for people who just want to fit in, who want to have more opportunities in life. It's true. People in larger bodies don't often get the same opportunities. They're turned down for jobs. They maybe don't have the same dating pool. So, of course, wouldn't somebody want to have all of the advantages that someone with thin privilege has?
But there is also a health benefit.
No.
If you are...
No. I go back to the health factors come as a result of what's being done to people for the weight stigma that they have, the stress they're under.
If you have diabetes because you're 200 pounds overweight, you lose 200 pounds.
No, you have diabetes because it's genetic. You have diabetes for many factors that have nothing to do with weight. I have many clients in larger bodies who have diabetes and many clients in thin bodies that have diabetes. It's not necessarily a weight factor. But will weight cycling increase your risk of diabetes? Yes. Dieting will increase your risk of diabetes. So, that's the narrative that you have is prevalent. I understand that that's what people say all the time, but I don't buy it. I don't believe it. And guess what? It leads to eating disorders. You put a person on one of these drugs, you're making them anorexic. You're turning them into someone with anorexia nervosa because their goal is to lose weight. They have a restricted amount of food. They're not nourishing their bodies.
Well, one of the things that I have heard a lot from doctors is that a lot of people are just taking these drugs and they're not eating more protein. They're not working out. They're, taking their calories and alcohol. So they really are, in terms of, you can see someone that they talk about the Ozempic phase, which is, whatever. It's just that it's muscle loss. They basically lost muscle.
Loss. And guess what? The older we get, we need some fat on our bodies. It protects our inner organs. It makes our faces look better. Those, drawn out faces because they've lost so much weight. I don't want that. And I don't want my clients to have that.
You want people to have a great relationship with food,
Absolutely.
Enjoy their food. Y'all know I'm always looking for ways to strengthen immunity and gut health, improve my fitness and metabolism, and enhance my skin and hair. Well, I recently discovered the product Armra Colostrum. My skin started to look dull and my hair seemed to break off and not have the luster it once had. I have been known to have blonderexia, and dyeing my hair can leave it fried. Enter Armra Colostrum. It activates hair growth and glowing skin. It stimulates stem cells and collagen production, increasing elasticity for plumper skin. Armra Colostrum guards against UV damage, chemicals, and pollutants from the environment. It has gotten thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews and life-changing testimonials from users. Armra Colostrum is a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum that harnesses over 400 living, bioactive nutrients that strengthen the barriers of your body and fuel cellular health for thousands of research-backed health benefits. It strengthens immunity, ignites metabolism, fortifies gut health, activates hair growth and skin radiance, powers fitness performance and recovery, and confers powerful anti-aging benefits. Armra starts with sustainably sourced colostrum from grass-fed cows from their co-op of dairy farms in the U.S. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 15% off your order. Go to tryarmra.com/SHEMD or enter SHEMD to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/SHEMD. I love real ways to monitor your health. I use devices to track my periods and other when I work out. I have been hearing so much about continuous glucose monitors from several of the experts we've had on the podcast, and I really wanted to try it for myself. I wanted to understand what the food I ate and the exercise I did were doing to my body. With Signos, you can see which foods cause your blood sugar to spike above reasonable levels and get real-time alerts to do a bit of exercise to bring them back down. On average, people make about 227 food choices a day. It took me years to have a great relationship with food and understand the difference between emotional and stress eating and physical hunger. I am so excited to use Signos and better manage my energy throughout the day and sleep better at night. With Signos, you can see which foods cause your blood sugar to spike above a reasonable level and get real-time alerts to do a bit of exercise to bring them back down. On average, people make about 227 food choices a day. Learn the difference between stress eating and physical hunger. Better manage your energy throughout the day and sleep better at night. Every expert has told me that drinking is not good for me, but I learned with Signos that a glass of wine at dinner actually really spikes my blood sugar. I also learned that short walks actually matter and are really good for you. Signos removed the guesswork of weight loss and provided me with the tools and knowledge I needed to develop healthier habits. It combines your glucose data from the CGM or continuous glucose monitor with an AI-driven app to ensure real-time glucose insights for optimal health and weight management. Right now, Signos has an offer exclusively for our listeners. Go to signos.com. That's SIGNOS.com and get up to 20% off select plans by using code SHEMD today. That's signos.com and use code SHEMD to get up to 20% off select plans for you today. So can you give us just, if everyone should read your book. I'm just going to say that.
Absolutely.
There is a literally step-by-step instruction in your book. But to give our listeners and our viewers, how can you be an intuitive eater? Like, give us 5 tips to be an intuitive eater.
First thing is reject diet culture. If you have even the slightest thought that, if this intuitive eating thing doesn't work, I'll go on any of those diets you mentioned, you're never going to be able to tune in, because the mere perception of future deprivation will get you to eat well beyond. So reject diet culture. That's the first thing. The second thing is to look through a lens of satisfaction. I didn't mention that before. One of the driving forces of intuitive eating is getting as much satisfaction as you can out of eating. You can't have satisfaction when you think you're eating something bad or wrong. You can't have satisfaction if you don't have an appetite. I'll often say to a client, so would you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on your way to your favorite restaurant? You're going to celebrate your anniversary. And they go, well, no, duh, Elyse, what's wrong with you? And I'll say, why? And they'll say, well, because I wouldn't have an appetite. Bingo. You're going to enjoy your meal better if you have some appetite. Now, what if you don't eat all day, which a lot of people do, building up to,
fasting
to the deal. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's not very satisfying because you're in such primal hunger. You're at that point where your brain is not getting enough energy that you eat the whole breadbasket because you're, in that state of needing to nourish your body. That's not satisfying. So people start to learn to eat when they're comfortably hungry, learn to stop when they're comfortably full. They might
I had to learn what it was like to be full.
Yeah.
I mean, literally,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, to listen, because and I still have this problem of eating too fast because I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters and we just ate in 5 minutes and we still do it here. So I didn't fix that part either.
But that was because of deprivation, Mary Alice. That's how that started. You have 5 sisters and brothers. There may have been plenty of food in the house, but in a particular meal, this one's grabbing and that one's grabbing. And your fear of not getting enough would cause you to eat fast. It's logical that that's how it began.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. So satisfaction. Eating, as I said, all food's emotionally equivalent. If you're eating something that you think you shouldn't eat, using some of the negative terminology about it, how can you feel satisfied? Because you're feeling like, I'm doing something wrong. So look through a lens of satisfaction. That's really important. Something you just mentioned, stay present. That would be another, piece. Just stay present. So many people, especially in today's world, so busy. I'm busy all day long, every day. And they don't take the time to sit down, pay attention to their food, really enjoy their food. They're scrolling or they're on the computer or they're on the phone.
Don't watch TV while you're eating.
Well, no, I have no rules.
Okay, there are no rules. Rules are the rules.
I am fully capable of watching a television show and eating because I'm staying present to my food. Some people can't do that. So for them, maybe TV would be not a good idea. I can read the newspaper. Every morning I read the newspapers when I have print paper. I know I'm old. I print paper and I read that every morning. No problem. Okay. The fourth thing would be to move your body with joy. Find ways to move your body that are pleasurable. People say, oh, I hate going to the gym or I hate running. Don't run. Don't go to the gym. Turn on some music and dance in your house if you love to dance.
I love to dance.
Yeah.
I love my dance class.
Right? So, find a way to move your body, because this is not about the right amount of exercise or you should exercise. It's about having pleasure in movement, and movement is important. Get your oxygen running through your whole system, and it helps your bones, it helps your immune system. There's many really important reasons why we move our bodies, but do it with joy. Have something that's fun. And the fifth thing, eat carbs. Now, actually, you're laughing, but I have to say there is such carb phobia.
There's a carb phobia.
Carb phobia.
phobia.
Okay.
I love bread.
Okay. So of course you do. So I want to add something while we're at this. Your brain, the only form of energy that your brain can use is glucose. Glucose is your smallest breakdown of carbohydrate. Glucose. That's the only way your brain can function, is on glucose. So if you're not eating carbs, how do you survive? If you're not getting the glucose in, you're on an all protein or on I've seen them all, Atkins and all those, that tell you not to eat the carbs. Well, you start breaking down your body. I like to call it self-cannibalization. You're using your body stores, not of fat. You're using your body stores of carbohydrate, which is glycogen. You break that down. That works for 4 to 5 hours. Then you start breaking down muscle tissue. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody might say, well, muscle, isn't that made of protein? Yeah. Protein is made of amino acids, which get converted to glucose. There's a word I love. It's called gluconeogenesis. That's a scientist in me. Gluconeogenesis. Genesis, make, neo, new, glucose, sugar. Make new sugar. So when you're breaking down your muscle tissue, you're slowing your metabolism because your muscle is your most metabolically active tissue. We need carbs, and you need carbs so that you can think and concentrate and have energy. And so
but you're not saying go out and only eat carbs.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're carb phobic, don't be afraid of carbs. Right. Balance. Isn't that the key to everything in life?
It's the key to everything.
Balance.
As you get older, you really do realize that.
Balance. You can't just do too much of one thing. So, of course, you need your protein. Of course, you need your fat. You need your fiber. You need your water. You need your vitamins and minerals. But you need your carbs. The majority of calories or energy input, I don't like to talk about calories, energy input in a day has to be carbohydrates, believe it or not.
I remember you told me one time, I called to ask you about what's the diet that you eat one meal a day? What's
the intermittent
intermittent fasting. I called you to say, well, I'm hearing all this stuff about intermittent fasting, and you said, and I said, everybody's losing weight on intermittent fasting. You were like, well, Mary Alice, if you're having one meal a day, doesn't matter what you're eating in that meal, you're probably not getting the same amount of calories as if you had 3 meals a day. Like the science is the science, input, output, like what you're eating, and you're like, and in the meantime, you're probably killing your metabolism. And as women go through menopause, like it's the worst thing to do.
I mean, you're not nourishing yourself in all those hours. It was funny. There was this book, I won't mention who put it out, called Intuitive Fasting. And I laughed. It's like, yeah, I intuitively fast when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But other than that, when you're up, you need food. I had to have a really good breakfast this morning to have the energy to do this interview. And, we need to eat throughout the day or else we're breaking down our body tissues.
But if we're not hungry for breakfast.
Well, some people aren't hungry in the morning because maybe they ate so late at night that they don't have.
I'm literally not hungry till 11 o'clock, and that's when I eat my.
Well, that's your breakfast.
Okay.
That's when you start your day.
Okay.
But people who are trying to go until 3 o'clock in the afternoon and not eat.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
And I will say, this is the shock, and you never wanted me to weigh myself. And I know that's still something, it's like my little crutch that I can't get rid of. But what was shocking to me was the fact that I could, and I know this, again, I work on this all the time, but the fact that I could eat whatever I wanted to eat, feel happy, feel full, have food. And I lost a lot. I mean, I literally lost 20 pounds doing this. And it was because my body, and so I'll just tell everybody, like when I came to see you, I was, and weight shouldn't matter, but I was 150 pounds. And when I started eating normally, I mean, and by the way, my body, I have big bones. I have I have my dad's bones. You can't tell when I'm 130 versus 150, I pretty much look the same. My clothes are a little bit tighter. Like it really isn't that much of a difference for me. But psychologically, I just couldn't believe that was happening. Like what I had been struggling with my whole life was to try to be this perfect weight that I had in my mind. And none of the diets were getting me there. It was literally the way of taking food and making it just something that I enjoyed and that I fed, that helped my body stay healthy, that, it was just extraordinary to me.
So Mary Alice, you were DNA programmed to be at the weight you ended up being.
Yeah.
If you had been DNA programmed to be at the other weight, you wouldn't have lost weight.
Right.
So I want to make clear, intuitive eating is not a weight loss plan. Some people lose weight. Some people stay the same. Some people gain weight if they've been suppressing their weight prior to, to starting intuitive eating or we're born with it, getting back to intuitive eating. So,
well, I think that's a really good point. So if someone is listening right now and they have a severe eating disorder, and it is so prevalent in our country and in the world, it is, especially for women, but men have it too. How do they even begin to? I don't even, is that the right word, fix? But how can we? How can we help somebody that's severely, even not even severely, just has an eating disorder?
Okay. So if it is a severe eating disorder, they need professional help. They need a psychotherapist who's trained in eating disorders. They need a dietitian who's trained in eating disorders. And then that's where it begins. And sometimes they need a higher level of care. They need to be in programs where they're getting treatment throughout the week or day. If someone doesn't have access to that and their eating disorder is really not so severe that they're going to die, but because
that is prevalent.
Yeah. Oh, I've had clients die. I mean, who were in terrible, terrible shape. I mean, really sad. Bulimia causes death. Anorexia can cause death. In any case, if you're someone who realizes that you've got pretty extreme disordered eating, read the book. Start to tune back into your body, but you're not going to get appropriate hunger and fullness signals right away because your body is so distanced from them. Either you're undernourished and everything's slowed down in your GI tract, so you feel full all the time, or you've been eating beyond fullness for so long that you don't even know what regular fullness is.
For me, it took a long time to become in tune with hunger and fullness.
So I would say if you read the book, don't worry about hunger and fullness right off. Put your focus on rejecting diet culture. Put your focus on getting more satisfaction out of your eating, being respectful to your body, taking good care of yourself as best you can, talking nicely to your body, not comparing yourself to everybody around, moving with joy, as I said. Speaking up, by the way, there's a lot of people who their eating disorders began because of parents, grandparents, and pediatricians who said, it would be okay if you just lost a little. I was working with a new client who's 14, and she told me she'd always had a little bit larger body than other kids, but she was happy as a kid. She had friends, no problem. And then at some point, both parents were restrictive all the time, exercising all the time, extremely thin. So she rebelled, and she went to a point of binging, gaining a lot of weight. And then she told her parents she was unhappy, and they said, well, you could do something about it. That began her eating disorder. Then she started restricting food. She lost a lot of weight doing that and ended up with a severe eating disorder. We have to be so careful what we say to kids. That's what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and again, I just want to say to anybody listening, I had the blessing to have Elyse as my my eating therapist for a really long time, and I'm still making mistakes with my own kids. So we do have to give ourselves a break, but it's a culture. I mean, it's our culture.
Well, that's it. Diet culture. Yeah. It's out there. Diet culture promotes this thin ideal, and for some a muscular ideal, but whatever it is, it's don't be the way you are. You have to change your body. It elevates certain foods and denigrates other foods so that you should only eat those foods and don't eat those foods. There's a moral part to it. You're a better person if you're smaller. That's what you're told, which then oppresses people in larger bodies.
Now, where can people find your book?
Okay.
Books.
Yes, wherever books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I like to support independent bookstores, and if they don't have it, ask them to get it.
Yeah. And you have your own website,
Yes.
ElyseResch.com.
ElyseResch.com. There are two websites. There's my personal one, which has lots of information about how I got into this, and talks I've given, podcasts I've done. You can access them.
Okay,
there are
great.
links to those. There's also the intuitive eating website, which is intuitiveeating.org. Mine is ElyseResch.com.
Okay.
And there's a list of studies. I didn't mention this earlier. Intuitive eating is evidence-based for increased physical and mental health. Over 200 studies at this point, scientific studies, well-researched studies that show higher psychological abilities, coping skills, physical, lower cholesterol, lower triglycerides. I mean, there's a lot of different physical and mental, psychological benefits to intuitive eating, which are seen in these studies. So some of those studies are on that website. I'm also kind of on Instagram now. I'm not a social media maven, but I love Instagram because I can take something that somebody else posted and put it on my story, crediting them, of course.
Yeah.
And it's a message. I don't know how to make it myself other than maybe taking a picture or something.
Well,
and
my children
posting
are
it.
helping me. I totally get it.
Social media is a problem, by the way. We didn't have that growing up. You
Yeah.
didn't have social media
No.
growing up. And you have to, talking about your kids, pay attention to what they're looking at. When they're flipping through and seeing all these photoshopped, digitally altered pictures of other kids their age looking a certain way.
Perfect.
It makes them feel
Yeah.
terrible.
I know.
So, yeah.
Thank you so
You're
much.
so
You're the
welcome.
best.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No, this is important. I think, this is not a female only problem.
No.
This is male
No.
and female. Anyone suffering, it really did change my life in such a positive way. And I'm just so thankful that I have this platform right now to be able to share your amazing education and knowledge for every woman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one other book I want to mention, which I wrote the foreword. I didn't write the book. It's called How to Raise an Intuitive Eater.
How to Raise an Intuitive
Yeah,
Eater.
so that's that will be more of a guide for people who are trying to,
like me right now in this.
Yeah.
Remember, if you want to own your own health, follow us on social media at SHEMD Podcast. We have new episodes dropping every Tuesday, so subscribe to SHEMD on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode.